In October last year, I was asked to participate in a BBC radio transmission that sought to explain the acceptability of excess related to Christmas. Carrying out a little preparation for the interview led me to a train of thought that I will attempt to replicate within this paper as an autoethnography. I have long struggled with the phenomenon of pathological consumption related to seasonal purchase, and I find both the excess and the fatuous spend distasteful. Pathological consumption is the phenomenon of purchasing or displaying items to demonstrate one's wealth, or to suggest that one is wealthy when one is not, something that is particularly visible to me at Christmas time. Photographs on social media of Christmas trees peeking out amidst a pile of garishly wrapped presents in an attempt to boast about what some people are giving their families and friends fill me with horror. Giving for the sake of giving is wasteful, but also, worse, destructive to the resources that so many are fighting to preserve on this planet. A plastic inflatable Zimmer frame, shower gel dispensers in the shape of women's breasts, sonic screwdriver toothbrushes, all pretty useless tokens to show that we care, when in fact all we are doing is wrecking this planet of ours. And tragically, this, through advertising, is both encouraged and normalised. In September 2021, retail sales were flat. There was no growth. This was a phenomenon undoubtedly linked to the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on consumer behaviour and the economy. In October 21, we saw a rise in spending, and it is surely no coincidence that this increase in spend was preceded by stories in the UK media related to supply chain problems and stark warnings that products normally popular for Christmas would be scarce. News stories focused upon distribution hubs with a visible stack of the most desirable toys for this year, and a vocal warning from the warehouse manager turned pushy marketer that these stockpiles were not going to last and that consumers ran the risk of being disappointed. We listened to the media and we rushed out to spend. This phenomenon is called the scarcity effect, where, in the face of unavailability, acquisition of the items in question becomes ever more important to the consumer. Then came the Christmas ads, those harbingers of festive excess, full of virtue signalling and imperatives to spend, and then spend some more. Not for John Lewis, Tesco or Sainsbury customers, the Christmas dinner table with normal-sized portions. Not for them, the Christmas trees with 1 or 2 gifts per loved one. These ads focused on hyperbole and extravagance, and encouraged both an early spend and an excessive one. The nice thing for salespeople about early spending is that very often consumers will not limit themselves to the goods that they buy early. In my case, I often buy early, hide the gifts away from curious eyes, and then promptly forget that I have bought them, which leads me to spend again nearer to the holiday season. Marketers have always encouraged the full cupboard syndrome, where special offers incentivise consumers to stock up on products. But unlike Christmas shopping, these goods are not hidden away out of sight, with forgetfulness about the full cupboard leading to further, sometimes excessive spending. Christmas 2020 was difficult. There is no doubt about that. People had been ill. People had died. We had experienced loss of many kinds, including some severe lockdown restrictions. Employees had been furloughed, and we were unable to enjoy the Christmas period in the way that we would normally. This was still fresh in our minds in October 21, and so we unwittingly engaged as consumers in something called affective forecasting, where we can only imagine what is to come based upon what we felt at that particular moment in time. "We don't want another Christmas like last year," is something that I was hearing from friends and family all over the world. Our current mood led us to participate in a somewhat biased emotional forecast for Christmas 21, overestimating the loneliness, the deprivation, and the negativity that we may have gone on to experience. Based on what we had experienced over Christmas 2020, we predicted negative and multifaceted anticipatory emotions for Christmas 21, and this was entirely understandable. Never organisations to miss an opportunity, the retailers pounced upon this and, with their seasonal advertisements, encouraged consumers to make the most of festive celebrations and to embrace hedonism and overconsumption. John Lewis's Unexpected Guest ad was the most heavily merchandised Christmas ad they have ever produced. They told the story of an alien arriving on our planet and demonstrated the joy of making new friends and experiencing magical Christmas moments for the first time. Whilst the virtue signalling going on here related to inclusivity and welcoming those not of our society, the reality of the situation was that the ad related to encouraging consumer spending. The only items shown in this ad that were not available in either John Lewis or Waitrose stores were the spaceship and Sky the alien's clothing. The ad demonstrated that which their consumers were thought to crave: happy times, togetherness and sharing, all achievable through buying Christmas from John Lewis and Waitrose stores. Sainsbury's ad was entitled A Christmas to Savour and focused on a family settling down to Christmas dinner together. Etta James sings the soundtrack At Last, which one can imagine would barely be heard above the groaning of the dinner table and the popping of the Prosecco corks. Excess, it seems, has been a long time coming. At last. And Tesco, let's not leave them out. They produced an ad considered controversial by anti-vaxxers, which showed Father Christmas presenting his COVID passport in order to be allowed free access and avoid quarantine at passport control. The soundtrack featured Queen's anthem, Don't Stop Me Now, and showed people determined to enjoy a traditional Christmas with friends and family in an antidote to the previous year's lockdown. Again, groaning tables and excess seemed to be the order of the day. Nobody wanted another lockdown Christmas, but is excess really the way to celebrate? Is it only through overspending and overconsuming that we can ensure a happy festive season? Without wanting to sound like a female version of Ebenezer Scrooge, not in my house. We don't stint, but as someone who considers themselves to be fairly marketing savvy, I will buy what I want, not what I'm forced to buy. Excess saddens me, especially when there are so many people who feel that not being able to subscribe to excess means that they are somehow lacking. The culture of pathological consumption is not sustainable, neither from the perspective of the consumer nor the planet. For me, Christmas is about more than spending for the sake of spending, and retailers need to recognise that this attitude exists or run the risk of alienating some of their customers. Would encouragement to consume excessively warm you to a retailer? Would it put you off? Or does it not matter? It matters to me. Thank you.